let's see what happens. Basically, my cat is now my phone holder, and I tried to make it the other way around, but she just stood in between my phone and my camera. So right now I'm going to get ready and talk about that and talk about energy. So I am checking out something that I said I need to check out a while ago. And this is Tesla energy, but not Nikola Tesla energy, but Elon Musk Tesla energy. Apparently, he just made batteries that store solar energy. Very, very simple idea. And they can power anything when you don't have, let's say, a grid or consistent energy, or a world war. What I like about this, it's not new, and we have not been hearing about this as much as we hear about like the Tesla cars and all their developments, which pisses me off because I think it's a great idea and is way better than fossils, gas chambers, and following on gas chambers is the Chernobyl energy. That's literally how it should be called. It's Chernobyl energy. That's fusion. Now, one thing about fusion, when I was in 2017, I was a TA, 2015, 16 actually, even before sugar-free lemonade, I was a TA, and I think I don't know how to do it well, but okay, we'll just do that. And then there are my nails. So let's do some nails. This is just very simple. It cost 7 shekels. It's 319 Sakara. I know it doesn't have all this, I don't know, ethically sourced stuff, but I just wanted to do some green magic. And so when I was TA and I was looking into energy, nothing to do with my job, it's just me doing what I'm not supposed to while getting paid to do something else, just my city in general. And so I was checking on like fusion energy, and it sounded like a great idea. The thing is that we don't really have the medical ethics or the research ethics, environmental research ethics to explore places with it so that it can be safe. Pfizer style, we're after COVID. This is, it works on nuclear energy. It doesn't matter that it's the way, if you pull it or you press it, you still get the radiation out, and it's still nuclear energy. This is where you get the power, this infusion. And so that's how Marie Curie died. Like, did we sort this out? Not if you ask atomic veterans or people who work in production of anything nuclear. So, and go prove that your loved one's cancer is because of that. We, by the way, still have it with the cellular antennas. Like, we haven't sorted this thing out. And even with gas, there is radiation. I'm aware of it. But what I like about just storing the sun from solar panels and storing that on battery is that it works. It's less terrible than most of what I know, and very likely, like, at least not more inflammable than hydrogen, which is like the hydrogen-powered cars. That's incredibly inflammable. But hey, so is petrol, right? So that is something that I really, really would like to see. And the way I was looking at it back in 2016, 17 was regarding sovereignty of nations. Okay, they just found, gas in Israel, and I was like, that's so sweet, but isn't the world like going solar? Wouldn't that be the best? I mean, what if Saudi Arabia went solar? How would the West deal with that? They said, we don't sell oil because we don't produce oil anymore because we're a sovereign nation. We just go solar. King of Morocco survived the Arab Spring going solar. On the other hand, when Muammar Gaddafi tried to do the banking thing, like to have their own bank, that didn't work. And yet we have the many people who invented energy related stuff and were assassinated along the way. So I don't know how Elon Musk got to play its thing. He plays a double game all the time. Like you see that with whatever he does. But as far as I can see, like we get Tesla energy out of it. So he plays a double agent to the Satan, even like really what yeah, what I liked it. What David Icke, I call him David Icke, posted on Elon Musk. One of the things was when he posted the "Don't mess with Tesla," blah blah blah, and he used the pentagram, but he used the correct pentagram. He used the Venus pentagram, not the Satan one, not the inverted, and on a silver color, which is basically moon remediation. So it's like, oh, this is Venus remediation, and then David Icke is like, hey, he's worshiping Satan, which like in his position he has to. That's the point. But he actually put the inverted of the inversion, which is like, that so caught my eye. So I have no idea what he's up to, but hey, if we pull stronger and the more buying force, first of all, the more we pull stronger towards the idea that he likes to do and are good for the world, the more buying force we will have. And the more buying force we will have, the more we can pull towards the idea we like to see. Definitely I don't want to reduce sovereignty of nations to, let's make a new bank and let's make new energy, because of course assassinations all over the place, nations invaded, whatnot. I mean, think about it. Israel found gas in I don't know when, and then, they just like, let's plan a war and conduct it. Just today, I read in Ynet that some people ethically hacked into 8200, which is like an intelligence unit, and they got all like classified documents and so on. They pretended to be officers, and they just like got everything, and they managed to publish this in the newspaper. Now, what do you know about whistleblowers? If you've been watching my channel, okay, you got your answer, right? You know already what I think about this. I don't know if you read this in English, but I want to talk about something else. Is what would you have to do if you wanted to do that? If you wanted to ethically hack some place and force those who keep the enforcement or the security to actually do their job. Well, you would first have to declare conflict of interest with the funds that fund the juristic system grants. Why am I saying that? This is first. Why am I saying that? Because immediately who will be persecuted is the whistleblower. Also in human trafficking and child trafficking, peterings, so the whistleblowers are persecuted and accused of, yes, the crime, but nobody else is persecuted. And so they would have to find a judge, a lawyer, and anybody that is not affiliated with those funds. And those funds basically pick the people to train according to their desires, and they enable the peterings, the various degrees to which a lawyer has to be, or a judge has to be involved. And of course, the higher the rank, then the higher the involvement. And this is how you get to see so many corrupted people in such places, because simply currently there is no infrastructure for a non-corrupt system. Like, that's what's up. That's what's up, okay? Currently, you cannot be a trained professional in any profession without having some affiliation through those grants, even if you're not like a member in secret society, which you probably need to be to get like the grant. But sometimes you might not know what's going on. And this is one thing. And of course, you would have to declare conflict of interest with the WHO and WEF, as well as the Vatican. So that means that whoever judges you, whoever deals with your case, whoever represents you as well, you have to be aware of that, has to be unaffiliated with any of those. Okay, so you'd have to have enough people knowing about what you're doing and vouching for you. So you'd have to have people looking for you, and you have to have people with arms looking for you. Okay, so this is what you would want to do if you would want to whistleblow on security systems. Why does this matter? To prevent invasion to your land, to prevent world war, to prevent occupation. Okay, so that is basically yes, one thing that came up. And another thing that came up is, yeah, jupigemini court system. Okay, okay. How do I begin this? I think I've already tackled that by saying what I said. Okay, I've already tackled that. The point of interference is the juristic system, and you'll have to find out who are the funds that fund, okay, the training of those people. And you can, of course, declare a conflict of interest with Supreme Court judges and so on. I'm not going to, when I say it sounds light, or it sounds like, it has no implications. You understand what I'm saying, right? Because they do. But this is necessity. Currently, there is no infrastructure that is devoid of peterings, okay, in court systems. What does this mean? Okay, for example, whistleblower, get belmarched. I'm saying this as a general term, not anybody specific, general term. Then you'd have to have a lawyer that represents you, okay? You get to your lawyer managed to do some achievement. Now you're danger to the system. What they can do is they can switch the role. They have to get rid of somebody. So with Britain, it was no problem. There are elections. They're just going to put someone of their own with whom Julian Assange has conflict of interest, which now has to declare. So that is going to be very interesting to see what's going on. Keto in the court system, keto in Libra, keto will keto. But also, let's say you have a lawyer that represents you. If this lawyer is affiliated with enabling Peter Rings, it's very easy to get rid of him or her. Take Amal Clooney case. Amal Clooney was also related to George Clooney, was also related to Epstein. Now, of course, we know that everybody is corrupt and so on and so, but it's just exactly why I'm saying that, because she represented WikiLeaks. Okay? It's not about Amal Clooney. It's not about George Clooney. It's not about WikiLeaks. It's about the point of where you need representation and there is no infrastructure to allow for representation that is unaffiliated with enabling Peter Rings as today. If you wanted it to be different, then you have to declare conflict of interests with those who fund the training of juristic systems. So if anybody got any benefits from that, which is the grant, then they cannot be the lawyer. Okay? For example, in Israel, there's a fund called Waxman Fund. And this Waxman Fund she picks judges, she picks people, commanders, and so on. So what happened to a mother named Ruth Shoam and her children? She just left the husband. Okay, husband was hurting her and the children. Left the husband, took the children. A year after, the children, by order of court, are brought back to the father. Father showers with the children, naked, does things he's not supposed to do. Nobody can help her. She goes to the most famous lawyer in Israel. The most famous lawyer in Israel, where she does great things, but she also got her funding from Waxman Fund. And she says, I cannot take the case because it takes her a while to say this. Yes, she wanted, of course, the case, but there's conflict of interest because she's affiliated with Waxman Fund. Okay? But this also entails that all the judges currently are not able, because of conflict of interest, to deal with this case. So it's very interesting what will be with Ruth's children in terms of juristics. But when you declare, like if all citizens, for example, in Israel declare conflict of interest just with Waxman Fund, not even all the rest, but you have to do with the rest, because otherwise it's not a problem. There are many such funds around the world. They will bring some judge from another place who is affiliated with such fund. But if you declare conflict of interest with WHO, with and the Vatican, you're already way more covered. Okay, Mormon Church, conflict of interest is something I really recommend to do. They're also affiliated with the Freemasons and belong to Freemasons. Of course, you can declare conflict of interest with Illuminati, Freemasons, and so on, which I think by now is fair. And then they will have to find someone who's unaffiliated with all of those to tend to the case. Currently in the world, that doesn't exist. In the Western world, anybody in such positions to deal with those cases, to deal with that. Okay, so you understand what we are starting here. What Ruth started, but just wanting to release her children, she's not to blame that this fund, okay, she got into this conflict of interest. She just did the natural thing to do. Okay, it's like if this fund was funding for the people that got her children, and for the lawyer that she could turn to if this was not affiliated with Waxman Fund, then yes, it's just how it happened. And so this is a point of interference, and you know me, I like to share points of interferences when I see them. And this is basically going to be accompanying us for the eclipse cycle with Ketu in Libra, so the juristic system. So yeah, that is a part of what I was thinking about today. Was thinking about Brussels, okay, because when the case for Delcroix, I don't know. Okay, 1995, 1996, Belgium. People find a person that kidnapped children and supposedly raped them. Okay, now here's a couple of illogical things about this. First of all, yes, they found many children in his place, were tied up, and they were raped. But they did not, as they usually do with rape cases, they do not perform the tests, and then you cannot perform the tests for DNA and stuff like that. Everybody knows that. Why should they do different with children? And so what the court presented this was a single man that kidnapped many children and just raped them. And this is how, we heard about this. Oh, this serial rapist, a serial killer, a serial this, because of course some people die in the process. Just something can happen, and what nobody at the court was willing to tend to, for obvious reasons that I'm stating now, was the fact that if he even wanted to try to perform all these rapes that were done on all these children alone, okay, Pfizer would go bankrupt. They would not be able to produce this many pills, and he would croak on the first day. Okay, it's just too much. That means that he trafficked these children, and they were very likely used to extort people like judges, politicians, Supreme Court judges, and so on. So this is Belgium's the Mink, basically, but except for where the Mink was doing snuff films and was caught on camera. Very likely was the picture not clear, and the driver that testified died, conveniently, and the KLM pilot that whistleblowed is stateless, was Dutch citizen. Very weird. And of course, the Mink made it impossible to investigate anything. Okay, this is why we have to declare conflict of interests. Okay, this is why this is a point of interference. For cases like food children, she wanted children back. Okay, if she declares conflict of interest for these children, of course, problem was very likely that they were not affiliated with parents. And now you get how when people go and ask for help from welfare, they take the children, they separate the children. Now these children are trafficked, no problem. They can't ask for these children because they're not in a position that allows them the access to do so. Okay? If they get to kidnap their own children back and so on and so forth, but they have to declare conflict of interests first. And so for Delacroix, okay, there was a time where the public in Belgium, now is the time you want to listen, okay? All you people who are afraid of immigrants, I want you to listen and listen very carefully, because now is the time you want to listen. I'm going to talk about what no leader can talk about openly, even though some of them are brave enough to say the name Brussels. Bruges has said what I said. And so, what happens now? What happens when 1995, 1996, there was the exposure of the Delacroix case? It was very obvious for people that, however corrupt this Delacroix person, it's just humanly impossible to rape this many children that much. And that very likely, the insistence of the justice system to portray this as a case of one single serial rapist and killer of children. Okay, we the people, okay, the Belgian people, they were protesting. What do you have to do, okay, if you were the government, for the politicians, that they sleep with those children because that's how they extorted, and they have to, otherwise they don't get to be in any position, okay? Or they get to be life-threatened, I don't know, like Geert Wilders, if he managed to find a loop out of this, then he's life-threatened all the time, basically. So, what do? Well, you import people. What kind of people? First of all, on what ground? Oh, refugees, it's easy. But what people? Where are cultures that are openly okay with sleeping with children, child marriage, killing children if they don't want to marry this person or that person? It used to happen with Mormons openly, now happens in secret, okay? What other type of populations are okay with this? Certain places in Africa, not every place, for genital mutilation, all these things, for the tortured children, and then it looks like that, okay? But even more so, the sharia law countries, okay? The sharia law countries. And so, if you import people, all kinds of people come in. First of all, you create wars. So people would want to come. Then people are sent. They are sent because they are told they're going to make Europe Islamic. Now, what happens when you want to deal with another Delacroix? Somebody is exposed. Another Delacroix. It's no problem because the people will not protest. They are all abiding by Sharia law. It's okay to rape children, it's okay to kill children, it's okay to marry children at very young ages. It's not okay for women to go to work, and all of these things, all of these cultures, okay? So the people that would flood the juristic system whenever a Delacroix case happens would just be replaced by the people who wouldn't protest. This is why from Brussels, Europe became so open to immigration. Okay, and I met from when was the war in Syria. I was talking with the person, just on OkCupid. I used it to talk with people from all over. I thought he was Slavic. He said, I'm your neighbor. I said, what neighbor? I said, I'm from Syria. Then he fooled me that he's Islamic. Then he tells me I'm Christian. I'm actually Christian. And he says, because he's Christian, he did not get the help for when Muslims come to Germany. He was in Germany. He did not get help. Some church helped him, but he did not get the help. And he could do history teaching. He could do many things. He was, talented in Syria, but he could not get help because he was not of the religious sect, and therefore did not get help. Okay, so he managed to sneak in, but as far as Germany is concerned, he could just die. Okay, he won't, but that's very likely for another. We did not continue to be in contact for obvious reasons, really. And so another case of when I was in shelters, there was with me an elderly woman, Moroccan, also Christian, secular. And she would get a little bit of help from food where in a certain church met a Berber group with the imam. And they would do volunteering. Okay, and then she would get some vouchers sometimes. So one time she brought me, and they didn't have vouchers. Yes, and it was very funny. I even don't remember where did I say I am from, because my Dutch was not good enough, and English would be very weird, and Israel is very, I don't know. We didn't know how they would respond. But if you were not a Berber, you did not get housing. All these people that came, they would get housing. She, elderly woman, also with ailments, was left basically to die in the street unless there are winter shelters. And when there was COVID, then there was shelters, because even if it was above zero, if there was lockdown, there were shelters. That's how it was. And so, yes, of course, there are actual refugees that need help. They don't get help. They are left to die in the street. Okay? Sometimes, well, around COVID was a bit better. People still got help, even if they weren't like Berber, Moroccan, which was kind of like they would come as a tribe and they managed to do something. I have no idea what. And this is also how come, certain people don't get to assimilate or to learn the language, and then there are even more conflicts and so on. But the people that, okay, it's true that some Europeans, yes, they got help, they got housing, at least back then, and that was good. I'm very happy to hear that. And so, yes, because of the sensitive information I was exposed to, I had to cut contact because I didn't want them to be hurt by vouching for me. And I'm okay right now, I have a place to be. So, what happens is that with the influx of people under the guise of refugees, there come refugees, but there also come people that are very connected with the culture that these politicians and these Supreme Court judges, but even more so, it's not these people, because these people are elected, okay? They just apply to what they need to apply. And so, and if you want to do anything where you have money that will last for your children, you have to some sort of corruption, maybe drugs, maybe something else. And so the more corruption you're willing to bargain, and sometimes you get caught into something that's more than you intended. Okay, when they were trying to recruit me to human trafficking, it was just one night homeless in Amsterdam. I didn't find a shelter. And yes, nobody to blame for that. It's like they gave me shelter, gave me address, I just didn't know where it is. And it was late, so I was in the street. But then when I was recruited by a lady that wore uniform and worked the whole shift with her, so I said she probably is employee, and then she would tell me that she would want me for a drug business, to which I said no. There's no reason for a business of drugs, of weed, to be illegal in Netherlands, because the Netherlands is legal weed. Just why this legalization makes it easier to. And she thought I'm not Dutch. So she said, the passport will cost you €1,000. You need to work. My friend has a pub. Okay, and when you didn't sleep all night, your mind is not thinking so very well, until she begins to talk about putting lingerie and putting pajamas, so I cannot even walk in the cold. It was freezing cold, and warning me that if I travel black, then I meet one of her people, and then I have problems. So she went to the right, I went to the left, of course direct to the police, and that made it impossible to help me with housing. Astrologically, it's okay, because that would mean that in Netherlands my fourth house would be ruled by 22 Mars, which is to kill and be killed. No, thank you. But I was also exposed to corruption in that way, and so you're not told what you're going to do. Now, how did this woman who recruited me, how did she come out? Why was she not trafficked? Well, they told her, you want to not be raped? Okay, then you have to recruit people. Very likely she has to fund a certain amount of people so she won't be raped, tortured, murdered. Okay? And so, of whatever she has to do, and maybe they give them training how to do so. And so, of course, I was hating on her, which is natural. She was a life risk to me. But yes, you have to understand how this system works. And so, who are the people that they're getting to? Is not just refugees, which is dangerous enough, especially after Ukraine and all the conflicts we have. Then is also children. Okay, who run away from home the most? Children, youth. Okay, you got pissed at your father, you got pissed at your mother said, you know what, here, the door is open, you get the fuck out. Until the police will find you, you have to be missing in some place. In Israel, you have to be missing sometimes 3 days before you declare the missing person. Okay, so until you're declared missing, you understand, okay, then it's many times they can recruit you. And so for a child, if they say, oh, you will make money, you will be independent, you will make your own money. Yes, you push some drugs, you push some this, and then you don't push any drugs. You put it to child trafficking. So it's very difficult, especially when children are youth. Then they want to rebel, they want to get out. It's very easy to get the child out like this. And this is also why I was speaking. So naturally, I didn't find anybody that was able or willing to help. That was, yes, the case. Although very, very easy to find who this person is if they wanted, but if they're working for some organization that later would extort, okay, would also have expendable children, for the problem was not me, but expendable children, then that's what it was. Not drug cartel, okay. So that was yes, drug cartels. Basically, the people who tend to this, they look for drug cartels to vouch for them. If the drug cartels are not doing like child trafficking, but then they can do human trafficking. So it's another problem. And so, if you think about what's the weird thing about Trista Tate and vouching for Andrew Tate on the Forum for Democracy website, it's like, yeah, probably they vouch for Forum for Democracy, and now they have to put anti-LGBTQ agenda where there is Van Maren, where it wants to talk about satanic ritual abuse. So the more people begin to declare conflict of interests, the sooner, the more bureaucratic difficulty it is. Okay, how did they get to cancel various laws around COVID, where it was irrationality around putting masks? So let's say when you travel alone in a forest or something like that, and so on, or paying fines for this, is basically to said, if everybody that gets a fine files a lawsuit, it will be very difficult to get us all to do that. Okay, and so if everybody declares conflict of interests, and people begin to vouch for each other, people begin to go to the street. And so what is the side effect that happened when Brussels began to import to all Europe those populations that include the populations where they would believe they come from ideological reason to spread Sharia law in Europe. Okay? What would happen is that two things. One, German parliament legalizes. I haven't bulletproof checked this, but I would not be surprised at anything right now. Legalizes pedophilia. And two is all the rise of deportation. Now, what is the difficulty or the challenge with the deportation? First of all, it's very difficult to deport just the people who are, who are wanting Sharia law. You have to wait until they do terror, and then you have to deport them if they have like dual nationality. It's one way you can tend to this. But it's very difficult, and then to close the borders. So to close the borders, if let's say people want to escape Sharia law, then they would need a shelter in a Western. They want to assimilate. They want to learn the language. They want to work to make a living. There's not enemies of Europe or enemies of Western society or enemies of, I don't know, the secular people that grew up Islamic. Okay, like Mormons are not better than Sharia law, and so. When it comes to to these things, then the problem is, okay, it's like a membrane. You want the membrane to filter out something, but that can be used for ghettoizing Europe by World Health Organization, by WEF, and so instead of having more sovereign nations, we're going to just have Europeans build their own ghettos. I mean, they made the Jews do it, why not? So that is the challenge that I see with that. And another thing is that what is the day after the revolution? Okay, the day after you deport all these people, let's say you managed. Okay, let's say you managed. You're still what will you be left with? Delacroix. What happened in Delacroix? All the people in Belgium began to go physically to demonstrate against what happened in the court system. Do you really think that Brussels will allow this to be? This is a third world war. And this is why there's already mandatory recruitment around Europe, around the nations that want to be sovereign. So this is what we are dealing with. What's the point of interference? Declaring conflicts of interests with those systems, okay, from the funding for studies of law. It's going from the funding from studies of law. This is how it was in Israel with Wachsman Fund. And they also pick who are the people. Okay, so these places in Israel, they also pick who are politicians, who are major people in the army. That how was 7th of October happening? Okay, it's like, oh, we want to be free from Israel. Yes, but let's just think about logically. What allowed this, okay? I'm Me Too veteran. What allowed my being able to speak in 2017 and the focus to be on the Me Too veterans and not on other things, okay? Julian Assange began to Belmarsh. He began to do his time in prison. Nobody wanted anybody to talk about that. Okay, so we must also be aware of what was allowing for this. So if you are aware, you don't get caught up, because if anyway, as Me Too veteran, I will have to whistleblow. Why was it happening? What, all the men just wanting to sexually harass women? All the men? Because it's the board, they say I must have sexually harassed, they can't control this, they can't do this. Not, no. Men usually, healthy sexually men, they like it when you orgasm. This is what they sell for porn. Is when a woman orgasms, she makes like pleasure noise. This is what they go for. This is what they pay their money for when they pay their money. Okay, this is healthy sexually men. It takes a lot of energy to invest in a man for him to be not in this stage. A lot. Okay, so when people say that this industrial porn does it on purpose, is true, and to get people to be like that is a lot of investment of energy. So why would they do that? It's because they cannot not. If they don't, then they're not vouched for, they don't have a job, and they are beginning to be the victim jobs, not the recruiter jobs, but the victim jobs. The rest is recruiter jobs, trying to recruit people for human trafficking. Okay, that's what's up. And this is why, okay, because it's like, and then you have to whistleblow, yes, but it was very good that I will just say, oh, they did this, did that, but they're laughing, but it's like all the snuffed porn of children being raped and murdered, and we're like, yeah, they sexually harassed me. It was satirical. Like we weren't even aware of the tip of the, like it wasn't even the tip of the iceberg. And so when you begin to get that, if you survived, because a lot of us didn't, by the way, routinely they would put people in psychic wards. And then there was this person who got their funding after the financial crisis by psychic ward, because they were like, I'm cuckoo, give me studies. And so nothing else worked. All jobs were corrupt. I said, if you give me death or give me studies. So it was very difficult because they couldn't scare me with the psychic word. It was like I already knew the people. And then I already knew about open dialogue. Because I was like, okay, I don't find the magic pill for me, because I was looking for the magic pill. I don't find the magic pill. What helps? Oh, for psychosis, they have like what, housing first and open dialogue. What is open dialogue? Oh, they just believe people and they heal? This is insane. Okay, so that was what's up. But what they didn't want us to know is that Julian Assange is serving time in Belmarsh. They didn't want us to talk about this. And what did they arrest him for? Raping 2 women. Okay, so what he did, what he didn't. Yes, he was not sitting in Belmarsh for raping women. It would be lovely if people would be persecuted for that, but it's not the reason. It's because he whistleblowed. Okay, so the things that once you get to understand that this is a trafficking ring, that they cannot not do, that the higher up the rank you go, and you have to, it's like McDonald's, okay, if you don't progress, they fire you, but it's like, fire. That's all the assassinations that we see. And so, didn't comply with the WHO, okay? This is, that's basically how it goes. You defreeze your consciousness, you become defreeze. So shout out to Rob around this, because this is Ronald Bernard. This is about a structure, okay? And this structure is coming to lower ranks, until it's the all-encompassing structure that you really can't support your family, your children, without being enabling or victim or recruiter of these things. Point of interference is to begin to declare conflicts of interests, and so on. But this is basically a part of how simple cases become big mess, because they expose bigger corruption. And so if you say, oh, why don't the people go and demonstrate? Why don't the people do something? They did something, then they replaced the people with other people. And then it was not PC to say that what those other people are, they come in and they do stuff. And it's like, what? Are you going to say that more against the criminals? No, it's not more against the criminals. The same groups, the same that comply with those very same type of tactics in the guise of religion in Sharia law countries, now they make union. Okay? So they make union, but based on trafficking children and world wars, and this moves money around for weapon industry. Why did we hear about Tesla car going AI and not Tesla car powered by Tesla energy? Not Nikola Tesla energy, Elon Musk Tesla energy. He has a battery that stores solar energy from a panel. He could today power Tesla with his battery alone, and this company could make any nation sovereign. And is also, if you want to say to me, but it's really cold. Wait, but the structure, he does not, he has open source for patents, open sourcing system. So companies can do it for their own nation to local produce. And basically nothing stopping people from making those decisions. Again, solar panels, storing energy in a battery. Very good, very economic, very efficient. No idea why it's not done. No idea how is he alive while doing that, but we don't usually get people alive while doing that. And well, if we can keep Elon Musk alive and do that, that would be good. So energy is another point of interference, because to create energy sovereignty is now from holistic perspective. This is my contribution. Remember when I talked about last time Pluto was on 1 degree. So last time Pluto's been here, I've been singing songs about energy. And so, well, what from holistic point of view, if we use energy to just enslave people, it's like, oh, there is light also at night. You can work at night. That's just going to backfire. Like this is the world, okay? It's going to backfire. If we use energy, yes, we could use energy to do something beautiful for ourselves, okay? To have a plane, to have a car, and so on. But if we do this to enslave people, then what happens is eventually humanity deteriorates, okay? Degenerates, and then something else takes our place, right? And so, but this works on all humanity level. What happened with Brussels is something very simple. The very policy of the West to create Taliban countries backfired. They're useful. They're useful. You could import Taliban to, I don't know, United States. I'm not talking 9/11. I'm talking about, like, you can import people. It's like, oh, well, Americans protest so and so. Good, let's import people. That's, what did they use Ukrainian in Israel for? During COVID, there were a problem with real estate. Again, the same thing, 2008 all over again. End of Pluto in Capricorn. People were going to the streets with tents. They sent the Ukrainians with not really knowing the language, wearing the uniforms of cops to evacuate. What would Ukrainian do? He can get deported to the war. Okay, he can. That's why the people were like, oh, why doesn't anybody demonstrate? Because there were demonstrations, but. And then they had to say, oh, they didn't cooperate this with the police. First of all, try to. And then eventually they would. And I will end with a story. Said a military veteran. In Israel, there was a singer, actually very famous singer, very talented singer. And he was with his father. This also abuse of him. He was raping 12 years old, 13 years old, and were trafficked. So his father was the trafficker, I think, and his father in jail, but he was not in jail. He raped girls, and he never got the time to, I don't know, rehabilitate. This person's been used by his father to both be like a singer and a prodigy person, and then to rape people, to rape teenagers. And he has children himself, I think. Anyway, there was supposed to be a show of this person, Eyal Golan. And one of the girls that was raped by him called her lawyer. And they wanted to cancel this show because he can rape girls. Okay, it's not about, oh, it's cancel. No, he can genuinely rape girls there. And so they wanted to cancel. So what the lawyer did, she called the intelligence, the security in Israel, and she said, there's going to be a demonstration in so and so and so. Okay, there was no show. And with this I'll end.